All righty. Greetings, everybody. Happy week 8. Here we are. Yes, ready to get this show on the road. I know last week, 7, we had some interesting awful and hopefully not awful experiences. A lot of people who came in thinking, ooh, I don't want to have anything to do with these livers, and really ended up loving it. And then we also had some students who said, I don't want anything to do with those livers, and I still don't like them. And that happens. The important thing is understanding the technique, understanding what the mouthfeel should be like, what the flavor profile should be like. Knowing how to do it in case somebody says, hey, can you make this? And you know how to execute it, or working in an establishment that has that on the menu. You have that background knowledge. So even though you may or may not like it, it's important to know how to make. Just like somebody who says, you know what, I don't eat pork, or I don't eat red meat or chicken, or I don't like mushrooms. We all have our different preferences. We all have different palates, right? How we grew up and what we ate as a child in our culture also sways what we like or don't like. So if somebody grew up in a culture with a lot of pickles, a lot of funk, right? Maybe fish sauce, one of my favorite things ever to use. So a lot of pickles, or a lot of potatoes, or a lot of cabbage, a lot of mustard. All of these things play, or a lot of, more importantly, spice, right? Chili. I know some of y'all out here, we're talking about, like, I've got ghost peppers and Carolina Reapers, right? Some people love heat, others have no tolerance for it. So liver and offal is really not that much different than any other flavor profile or preference. It's literally just a personal thing. So always go into that understanding and knowing that being a chef means, even if you don't like something spicy, if somebody requests something spicy, you have to know how to moderate that. You're not going to overdo it and have them on the floor because they can't breathe, right? So it's about understanding no matter what. Or somebody says, no salt, or I like it salty. All these variables, right? You still have to know and understand how to really execute it. So whether you like pate or offal or liver or tongue or not, just keep on trying and keep on cooking it. And cater to the customer. Exactly, right? There's an old saying that says the customer is always right. That has gone out of vogue a little bit with some of the present day. For the most part, that still holds true. However, there are times when a customer might be wrong, and you can say, you know what, we don't want to serve you here, if they are racist or prejudiced or disrespectful. Remember, you do have that right in an establishment to say, you know what, we don't tolerate that here. And in that case, that customer is not right. But food-wise, it's a different issue. Yeah,
something completely different came to mind when you said that the customer's always right. How many of you have been to a restaurant where there's no salt and pepper on the table? Because the chef has the final say in the amount of salt and pepper in the dish. So I guess that's another instance where the customer isn't always right.
Exactly. And that's a tough one. What if somebody really loves their salt?
Right.
And black pepper? Who's to say? Well, anyways, did anybody have any specific questions regarding the pate or crackers? Otherwise, we will move on to week 8. And everybody feeling good? All right. Cool. They're very fairly straightforward recipes. A few key things just to look out for. Again, the most common thing that I've seen have been issues with crackers and dough. Either too wet or slightly dry. Usually the drier ones have a little bit better of an outcome. When you get really wet, that dough becomes really difficult to work with. You need to add more flour, and you want to add that flour before you start rolling it out, because otherwise what you have is just these, you're frustrated, right? Because you can't execute that as well as you would like to. So just always be working, feeling that dough. Does it roll out? Does it work? You know? And again, dough is temperamental. The type of flour you're using, your humidity and or dryness in the environment that you're living in, how much water that flour can absorb. Factors do play into this. Temperature, even. You know, if it's really hot, it's just gonna be a little bit softer and stickier because it's humid, maybe. Anyways, keep working with dough, keep playing with that. That cracker dough can be quite versatile. If you liked making homemade crackers and not using yeast, but taking flour and transforming it, keep looking up or reach out to me. We can send you more advanced cracker recipes, but you can do so much with those. And again, some people were talking about the thickness of it, or that they were really tough. It's really because you didn't roll it out thin enough. And that means your dough wasn't prepared enough to get thin, right? Because sometimes dough will resist and it's going to keep on shrinking back. And so then the fatter and thicker it is, the tougher it's going to be. The thinner it's going to be, the more brittle it is, right? Just like we know, like a big piece of metal is a lot stronger and resistant than a thin piece of metal. You can bend that. Big, thick piece of metal, you can't really bend. So similar concept if you think about it, just like thickness wise, right? Margarita, yeah, what's up?
Just really quick, in your experience, would it be crispier with butter? I felt like the oil, perhaps because I did roll it out thinly, it was difficult to pick it up and keep that thinness, transferring it over to the pan. But I felt like maybe the olive oil made it a little tough. I don't know.
Fat is fat at the end of the day. There are different attributes that fat, depending upon, like when we cut cold fat into pastry, like into making a pie dough, right? Taking cold fat butter and cutting that into flour, get these little pieces, right? And that creates a really flaky end result. So there's a level of like flakiness and layers that butter will have, cold butter, compared to like a liquid olive oil. However, olive oil is definitely not, at least from my experience, not going to make something tougher, because oftentimes you'll see some pasta recipes that call for adding olive oil and fat into that pasta dough, and many other things like focaccia, and those end up really soft and delicate. Chef Lee, do you have any insight on that?
No, I'm with you on this one for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Great. All right. Well, let's hop into this. Also, I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Hey, Dwayne. Good to see you. I love everybody else too, but Dwayne and I go back, so I just wanted to, I haven't seen him for a while. So, all right. Let's continue on. Week 8. Seasonality. What do y'all think about seasons? Do you think that we see the seasons in a regular, like a standard grocery store anymore? Do you see that often? Tina is saying no. I'm with Tina. What is it? What do other people think? Not really. We got another not so much. Pretty much a lot. Okay, yeah, a lot of no's. So we've been talking about this since week 1, right? Like, what does that fresh tomato taste like in season compared to that winter tomato, right? We know that there is a season for tomatoes, but that season is still ever present. We can still get tomatoes in the winter, even though it's not the season for it, right? And we know that accounts for travel, growing in different regions or climates, harvesting them green, pumping them with gas in a truck, all these things, right? Well, who's ever heard of, and I just want y'all to think about this. I think we touched about this a little bit last time, apples, right? We're talking about the variety of apples, but I want to talk about actually how do we have apples year round? We all know that apples fall, right? You're bobbing for apples for Halloween, you're making apple cider, got apple pie, all this stuff, all right? How do we manage to have apples all year round? If you were to take away flying them in from New Zealand, and we were just thinking about just US based, how do we have cold storage? Mary is on it. All right. Cold storage. All right. So I'm going to give you a visual of what this is about. But cold storage is something that's been taking place forever. First of all, who's ever had, when you go down to the basement, like a cellar, right? We all know, what do you put in the cellar? Downstairs, underground. It's underground, it's cold, right? So we can store products and vegetables longer because it's cool, right? Root cellars. Yeah, vegetables go in root cellars. And more than just root vegetables, but cold storage. We're talking about just keeping that a little bit cooler than that general temp outside, all right? So cold storage in the ancient way was dig a pit underground and store some stuff in that, right? Fairly temperate, controlled. New cold storage goes to the next level. And guess what it does? Not only does it control the temperature, keeping it as low down as it can go from slowing maturation of plants. What else do we think it does? We know that a few things make things grow. Low moisture, yeah, Robert, so we got low moisture, low temp, and dark, yes. You guys are rocking it out. Humidity is controlled for, yeah, what else? One other thing. You guys are so awesome. Think about what else happens with control of bacterial growth. What's going to stop something from being able to breathe? Air, yeah, Brian, oxygen, okay? So these are some atmosphere, right? So we know that the atmosphere is the sky, atmosphere controlled cold storage. They are basically eliminating all of these variables that make anything age. I mean, now if we could go in there as humans, I wonder what would happen. I don't think the same thing. But with fruits and vegetables, right? That's where we see it. So let me pull up a visual of this. There's some really wacky videos out there that go deep into the nitty-gritty of how they maintain this, but we're talking about huge warehouses, okay? Here we go. We got a good visual here. This is really what a glimpse into this world is like, right? So we're talking about massively controlled areas. They're just huge warehouses where they are monitoring everything, right? You can see you've just got pallets and storage of all types of fruits and vegetables loaded up, held at a very specific, scientifically controlled environment that stops any maturation. So those apples are not going to spoil. They're going to stay fresh, almost as if they've harvested it. Not quite, but more or less. And that is exactly why we can get all of these vegetables and apples and different fruits and vegetables year round, because they're basically just picked off the tree or the plant and put into a stable area. And you would be shocked. I'll send out a link as to how long some of these vegetables last in cold storage. But how old do you think some of the apples that you're eating are? Let's talk about that.
We've got 1 year, 4 years. I think Gilda's got 6 months up.
All right. All right. Great. I love this. You guys are thinking this is exactly what we want to see. So here's one website. I'm just gonna show you all. This will give an idea. Some of them have different, as we can imagine, they have different lives, right? Some are gonna store better, and some will store, not as long as others. Here we go. Check this out. So when we were talking about apples, who said 1 year? This is like the Price is Right. If you said less than 1 year, you are the winner. Come on to the showcase. Come on down. All right. Bananas up to 3 weeks, right? And you'll see that there are these optimum temperature, optimum humidity. This is the scientific aspect that I was talking about, right? So luckily, these aren't necessarily things that you have to deal with. You do have to think about that, how you store your products once you receive them. But this is your shelf life. Grapes. Can you imagine that grapes are lasting 2 months? 2 months. Pears, 7, and broccoli and cauliflower, which we're going to be working with this week, 4 weeks. Carrots are holding up to 9 months. Yeah, chef.
Begs a question. I think, a lot of times these things are held in cold storage for so long. And when they finally get to us and they're here in our houses, I know for me, something that arrives looking fresh lasts, it goes bad much quicker than I imagined it should. And so this makes a lot of sense as to why that's happening.
Exactly. That means that product was held up in a cold storage warehouse for a lot longer than you thought, right? We think of the vegetable getting harvested and getting transported, and maybe it's we know it's not happening that day of, depending upon where we live, but a couple weeks old. But the fact of the matter is that's going to storehouse, warehouse, then getting distributed, then resubmitted, and it's all a lot of temperature control factors, right? So that's why vegetables and lettuce and things turn a lot quicker, and that more importantly, that sometimes there's not a rhyme or reason. You think, well, I got these carrots from the same store 1 week, one time, and they lasted a month, and another time they lasted 2 months or a month. They got limp. It's all about their past life. We don't know their history. Okay. So those are things to consider when shopping, placing vendor orders, and being a recipient of products as well. What was the harvested on date? Now you'll see the world is changing, right? So does anybody know what a QRC code is? Let me show y'all. QRC codes are becoming more and more prevalent. This is really important in tracking where your food was harvested from, because remember how we just talked about the outbreak from red onions not too long ago? Well, we can get into the row, the farm, all these things. QRC codes are these, and you can click on it and you get the whole background of the product. Or you get taken to a website depending upon what type of product it is. If it's a non-QRC code or QCR? QR. I think it's QRC, but yeah. It's a QR code, excuse me. QR code. This is what a QR code looks like. I'm sure you all have seen these before. This is a QR code. You're going to see it on a lot of packages. It can take you to their website to give you information. Some QR codes will lead you to literally the specific, farm that it was grown on, and maybe when it was harvested on. It allows and accounts for traceability and accountability, which is really important because we have the technology to do that. All right, does anybody have any questions other than that? Because otherwise we're going to hop into the magical assignment this week of cooking anywhere between 1 and 4 week old cauliflower. All right, solid. I'll send out some links to cold storage and some other information after class once live session gets loaded. But it's very interesting when we start to think about the whole infrastructure, right? And how long products are actually waiting around on the shelves. I mean, can you now do you start to think about, well, when something goes on sale, how long has that actually been sitting there? Hey, I buy things on sale if I know I'm going to use them right away. Otherwise, we have to be more diligent, especially if we're selling that to customers. You know, you go to some grocery stores, they have better deals than others, but their product quality also turns quicker than others after a while, you start to notice, right? You need to use it really quickly. This is all about that because, of course, a company that is trying, or a business that is trying to sell their product that's been sitting in storage for a little too long needs to get that out. The recipient is saying, I also need to sell this. So you better drop your price so that I can sell it at a decent price to move this product. See how it all starts to flow together? It's strange, but it's about product movement. All right. So who loves cauliflower here? Chef Lee. Chef Lee has a special place in her heart. She calls it cauliflower power.
Power.
Cauliflower.
Power.
Cauliflower. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with cauliflower?
Well, I when I worked as a private chef, the guy that I cooked for was always doing some sort of low carb something or other. That was how I cooked for him. You know, 29 out of 30 days in the month. And so I became very familiar with cauliflower. I'm going to call it cauliflower now. Cauliflower and the different ways I could use it. So instead of mashed potatoes, I would make a cauliflower puree that was similar. I've made risotto with it. I've made fried rice with it. I've made pizza with it. I've made steaks with it, like one of the options you have this week. I think those are probably the main ways I have used it to kind of recreate things that we would normally use carb-laden ingredients to do. So it's really versatile. And I think, you know, even though it's a cruciferous vegetable and it has that strong sort of smell to it, once it cooks down, that neutralizes, and you can really, it's very adaptable. So that's why I love it. Has anybody else had that sort of experience with cauliflower, trying different? Wow, Melinda.
Some yeses and some nos.
That's awesome.
So yeah, there's been a huge, thank you, Chef. There's been a huge rush on cauliflower. There's even so much demand for cauliflower rice at some Trader Joe's locations that they have to limit the number of frozen purchased bags of pre-chopped cauliflower, which is pretty wild, especially considering if we could just take a head of cauliflower and put that through a processor. Can you imagine what type of markup value they're having? If they're selling a bag for like $4 for cauliflower rice for 8 ounces, or maybe 12, probably 12 ounces, maybe 6, yeah, 12 ounces, I'm guessing. And what does a real, pound of cauliflower cost? So cauliflower is, Selena was asking about, is it similar to broccoli? So cauliflower is in the same family. As Chef Lee was mentioning, it's in the cruciferous family, which also falls with the cruciferous brassica, like mustards and greens and these kind of more, we know when we're smelling broccoli cooking or cauliflower cooking or Brussels sprouts, okay? All of those are in the same family. Now, I'm not sure if you all know about this, but cauliflower comes in multiple colors. So I'm going to show you a little bit of that, and then I'm going to just show you the basics, and we're going to start walking through this assignment. Yeah, awesome color. So if you get your hands on it, check it out and play with it for this assignment if you can. If not, wait till you see it and do it again. Let me pull this screen up. but here we go. All right. So this is Romanesco, which is more of like a hybrid somewhere between cauliflower and broccoli. But this is what we're looking for. And these will be the more common. Romanesco you rarely see. That's a specialty order. When you see it, it's pretty cool. But this is what you'll most likely see. You'll see some, we've got our standard white head of cabbage, right? Excuse me, cauliflower, right here. And as you can see, broccoli, they have the same shape. You break them down the same way, right? They've got their stems. You cut off their crown. Cauliflower is a bit more tight than a broccoli head. They're a little bit looser. It's not as difficult. And when you cut, broccoli, those little heads will fall apart. In a cauliflower, they'll stay a little bit more. They're a bit more tightly compact. Now, a few things to point out. One, these leaves are edible. If you get them from a decent and reputable source, 100% edible. I mean, and they're freaking fantastic. All right, by the way, you can see right here, these leaves are amazing. Broccoli has similar leaves. They all grow in the same way, but totally edible. So if you ever get a nice head of cauliflower or broccoli and it looks something like this, save those leaves. You could either turn those into kimchi, make a stir fry out of it, but they're totally edible. All right, so don't let those go to waste. But hopping back in, we've got colorful broccoli, but man, cauliflower. I keep seeing the green one and saying what it is, right? Feel free to dabble with those. You won't have a huge flavor profile difference, to be honest. I've never noticed a huge difference. Chef Lee, have you? No. But visually gorgeous. So that's what that looks like. And as you can see, even on the inside, it starts to get white again. It's not as vibrant inside, and that's just because how they grow. So let's hop into this week's assignment, which, all right, here we are. We've got our week 8, as you know, knock out those research materials. Not a ton this week, just this thing about seasonality, which is why I'm going to send out some more resources for you all to read about. And when we hop into the actual requirements, so what you'll see to create the assignment, you will need to create 3 out of the 4 cauliflower recipes. All right, so you're doing 3 of the 4. Let's walk through this one from how your best approach is taking this out. All right, if you want to streamline this, you can only buy 1 head of cauliflower. I'm going to show you how to execute these recipes using 1 head of cauliflower. You might want to get 2. All right, but if you look at the quantities of the recipes, right, for 1 pound for the cauliflower press, we've got 4 portions, which is 1 pound of cauliflower for your gratin, 1.5 pounds, right, another 1 pound of cauliflower for your puree, and that's almost 4 heads of cauliflower. I will help you streamline this down to 2. Okay. By starting off with cauliflower steak. All right, so when we take a look here at your class page, we know we've got 3 options. Steak, very simple. This is the first one you want to execute, and I'll show you exactly why, because we're going to talk about utilization. How do you approach cutting a piece of a product that you want to utilize in multiple ways? The puree, which we know that means it's going to get ground up, right? Shape and size are not as important. And gratin, which also means we're going to have smaller pieces. The most difficult of the 4 is the cauliflower press, which takes a bit more time, a bit more skill, utilizing gelatin and solidifying agents to create a very upscale, modern take on utilization of cauliflower. So let's start off with the steak. Now, I know some of y'all are thinking, cauliflower steak, what? Yeah, well, guess what? Veganism, vegetarianism is huge. So if you can offer a nice, beautiful, meaty portion that looks fantastic and is striking, yeah, you're darn right a vegan or vegetarian is going to say, I'm going to lick that plate up. I want that. So as you can see, we've taken we know that full head of cauliflower, right? Now, if we look at cauliflower steak, we see that that is literally a thick cut, okay? You can either take it this way, tree-wise, which is up and down, which is gonna be the easiest way to execute this. Take that full head and go straight in the middle. Get one nice steak. That's fine. Alternatively, you can cut it horizontally, and you'll see though, but most likely you just don't get as great of a, you're more likely than not to have some florets fall off. I think I saw one. Here we go. The center cut one. As you can see, they've cut that little piece off, but that's that main stalk with all the florets around it. Otherwise, you have the tree branch, the tree stalk, right? And some of the leaves. So you just think about when you're looking at that head of cauliflower, how do I cut this? You can do that one, but it's gonna be hard. You're gonna need to get a nice thick cut to do the horizontal. Vertical, better results. All right, it's just gonna be easier for you to execute. So, you can do some really cool, funky stuff. Looks awesome. Think about how you want to plate that. Do you want to make a sauce with it? Do you want to make a dipping sauce with it? Not required, but probably will make it a heck of a lot better, right? Instead of just having a plain old seared cauliflower steak, jazz it up. Look at all these beautiful ways they've done this. You know, different accompaniments, different garnishes. Right? Maybe you pair a little. We know that cauliflower, fake cauliflower nuggets are a big thing. Buffalo cauliflower nuggets are a big thing. So cauliflower steak, let's hop into this. Take that large head, trim it, reserve those two sides, right, of that cauliflower for your puree and your gratin. If you're going small scale, if you can get two heads, even better. That means you can get two center cuts from each head of cauliflower and save those portions, right, for executing the other recipes. You can streamline this, as I've been saying. You don't need to do, you know, getting 4 half-inch steaks is gonna be really hard with this. You can do it, but your cauliflower head must be really big to be able to execute that, okay? So use your sense of, will this work? And evaluating your actual size. As you can see, it does say a large head of cauliflower, right? We're not talking about some little buns. We're talking about big heads, huge, really. Okay, we've got a few options. You're either going to grill this, broil, or pan sear. Best results, pan searing. You're gonna get the most and deepest caramelization. You're gonna get more heat contact, getting that beautiful golden brown. That's really kind of, where is it? That's this one. That's really like what this is. That's a pan seared, delightfully golden brown cauliflower steak. Got the grill, great. You get some grill marks, you're not gonna get a super tender end result because unless you're going really low on your grill, right? You just have to start thinking about, how does a piece of cauliflower cook? Your broil option, is going to be very under, okay? It will work. You'll get a little bit of black coloring around the top, just because if you're close to the broiler, but it'll be fairly undercooked in the sense that it'll be more crisp, al dente, all right? Your broil is going to be the most, unless you're going really nice and thin, getting some really good contact. I would highly suggest doing a pan sear. You can execute the other ways, go for it, especially I know it's hot in the summer. If you want to grill, go ahead and grill, but you're going to have your oven on anyhow, so for the other ones. Very straightforward, okay? Execute that, plate it up. If you want to garnish it with something, please do so. If you don't, that's also okay. Does anybody have any questions about that recipe specifically? Chef, was there anything that came up in the chat?
Yeah, I was just reading through that. Selena asked if you could bake it instead of broiling it, and really that application would work. But if you're going to do that, like Chef Catherine said, pan searing it on the stove is really going to be a better option over baking. It's going to give you the caramelization you're looking for. It's going to have more flavor intensity. So I would do that
Exactly,
route.
chef. Yeah, no, baking, you're really not going to get the color development that we want to see, and that's the whole point of the steak, right? So that's a great question, Selena. Do we really want to bake a steak? Not really. But do we want to grill, broil, or pan sear a steak? Yeah. All right. So think about that. What that evokes, right? A little bit more smokiness, a little Maillard reaction, a bit more flavor, depth of flavor profile in there. So,
Melinda's asking, will a mineral pan work well for this? Honestly,
a what?
unless you're talking about cast iron, I'm not sure what a mineral pan is. Is that
Yeah, I
something
have
you
no
can
idea what a mineral
share,
pan is.
share with us, Melinda?
Well, it's supposed
Cast
to be
iron
a
works perfectly for this.
it's supposed to be a pan that is really good for searing, for meat,
Mhm.
kind of along the same lines as a cast iron,
Okay. Okay.
but much thinner, not as weighty as a cast iron.
I think if you have one, give it a try and let Chef Catherine.
I
let
haven't
you
used
know
it yet, so I was
differently.
thinking this would be good.
Yeah.
Does it come pre-seasoned and stuff?
Yes.
And it's not non-stick. It's
Is
just
it called an Oz iron by any chance?
No, but I'm gonna go and get it.
go get
So,
it. Yeah.
You guys
Do it.
continue on. I'll be right back.
Do it.
Yeah.
There is a thing called an Oz iron or an Oz. I used to have one, very similar to a cast iron, but made out of sheet metal, very thin and lightweight. Does a great sear, but you have to really work on it before it can start giving you the results that you want,
Yeah.
much like a cast iron. If you got a cast iron, do a pan sear, you're going to be happy,
Mhm.
guaranteed.
Timing on the stirring for the puree, Selena, I'm guessing that's
We're going to hop into that. We'll cover that once we go through the recipe.
one other question. Can they put all three on the same plate? Yes, absolutely. You can serve all three of these together, right?
Even better. Yep.
Yeah.
Have a trio of cauliflower.
Mm-hmm.
But let's hop into these other ones. So next up, so now we've made that steak, right? We've got the steak cut out, that center cut, ready to go. Now we want to see, what do we have? All right. We've got the next up, we've got the cauliflower gratin. All right. So now here's where we're going to say we have these end results, the leftover scraps. What can we make with these little bits and pieces? Well, we want to take those larger chunks out for our gratin. Okay, our gratin, which you've done a similar version with pomme dauphinoise, executing anything where you're cooking a little gratiné, right? Meaning we're going to crisp up that top and cook with generally cheese and breadcrumbs and butter. With the cauliflower gratin, you can take those end pieces, those larger chunks, all right, and you're going to blanch them, all right, essentially. We'll simmer until tender, a little bit of a blanch, all right, in some lemon juice. Does anybody know why we put a little lemon juice into the water when we make cauliflower? Color, yeah. What does it do to the color? Preserves it. Yes, Robert. Yes, 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 all right. What if I put lemon juice into a pot of boiling water to cook green beans? Is that a good idea or a bad idea? It's a bad idea. Yeah. All right. So there are certain things that will help maintain color preservation when we're cooking certain ingredients. Acid and green vegetables don't work well. Totally deteriorates that. Remember, some of y'all who made the chimichurri first week turned brown, right? Because it had that acid in it. Maybe after a few days it started to brown, right? Because the acid is just working away on that chlorophyll, just taking it away. But acid and actually baking soda help preserve those white vegetables. So if you want to maintain that white vibrancy, you got to add that. All right. So then you're going to pull those out, drain it, and just like we do most, pan-baked casserole types of things, butter it up, put in your parboiled cauliflower, and then you're going to top with bechamel or Mornay. Who knows what bechamel and or Mornay is? Who wants to raise their hand and explain this? Gregory's up.
Bechamel is a cream sauce, but it's also one of the mother sauces. Mornay is I don't remember what it's called, but it's bechamel with something added to it, like cheese. It's good for making cheese sauces.
You're
Secondary sauce.
Yeah, you're right there. All right, you and a little bit of Melinda and Deonta and Mary were talking about it. So bechamel is a mother sauce. Do we know what the 5 mother sauces are right now? Who can list it off? Who can list those 5 off? Chef Lee, no, you are not allowed to participate in this. Who wants to go? We're in the last cooking class at culinary school. Who knows their 5?
Just guess. It's okay. Just guess. If you're wrong, it's fine.
Well, we've already got some people coming in. We've got, people are coming in. Oh, coming in hot. All right.
Here we go.
Great. In the chat, we've got bechamel, Espanol, Hollandaise, velouté, and Deonta pulling in with that tomato sauce tomate. Kimberly threw it down right there. All right. So yeah, know your mother sauces. Gregory was talking about saying it's a secondary sauce. I call it, so here's another way to think about this. We have mother sauces. What come from the mother? We've got children, right? So child sauce is Mornay, all right? You got bechamel, that mother sauce, right? Mornay, the child sauce. We're taking bechamel, we're adding cheese to that. We're just loading it up with cheese. Guess what? Who's ever made mac and cheese here? With the roux and a white sauce, right? Yeah, and then you throw the cheese into the sauce. Did you know that you were making bechamel and Mornay right there? That's what it is. All right. So remember, so many times when we've been cooking, I remember that was one of my best realizations in culinary school. It was like, I've been doing this all along. I had no idea that there was an explanation for this, a name for it, or anything, right? So that's what it is. All right. Yeah, baby sauces, right? Derivatives, derivative sauces, baby sauces, children's sauces, whatever you want to call it. You've got those 5 leading ones, and then all the sauces come outside of that. All right. And then, of course, there are outliers as well, but those mother sauces are really pretty big. All right. So hopping back into this recipe, and now I've got to speed it up because we're tight on time. Although I know that we got a little wiggle room, but I didn't want to take it. So we've got that, you got to make it, bechamel or Mornay, all right? I do have a link on the class page here. This is the recipe for bechamel sauce from the book. You will note 2 things. First, this is a yield of 1 gallon. That is a lot of bechamel. Now, you have 2 options. 1, you can make this big old batch, save it for later, make some other stuff. You've got an event coming up or people coming over or whatever. Or you say, hey, I don't need all of that. I need 6 ounces. Okay? So convert this recipe. 1 gallon. Convert it to about 8 ounces, right? That's easy. That's 1 cup. How many cups in a gallon? Do you guys remember Gallon Man? You guys know Gallon Man? see if we can get this. I want to make sure that this is nice and big. Here we go. Wait, can you see this anymore? Yeah, you guys can see Gallon Man. So 1 gallon takes how many quarts? 4 quarts. How many cups in a quart? 4 cups in a quart, right? So 16 cups in 1 gallon. Remember, think about this. If you ever have issues with converting, how many quarters are in $1? 4, right? A quarter. 4 quarters in $1, 4 quarts in a gallon. You'll keep your stuff straight. And then quart sounds like, you know, a square in my head. And we got 4 sides, all right? So 4 cups in a quart, okay? And a pint, if you're ordering beer, you want 16 ounces, okay? So just visuals, all right? So let's hop it back into this recipe. If you wanted to convert a 1 gallon recipe for bechamel into 8 ounces, divide by 16. Bingo. All right. Maybe you want to make a half a gallon, right? Half gallon is reasonable. Guess what? You also have to think about the time it's going to take to make this bechamel sauce. You don't, if your budget is you want to make a small part and you don't even like bechamel, then fine. But if you've got a little bit of wiggle room, use the extra time, make a half gallon, and make some macaroni cheese on the side. Just saying. Or turn it into Monte Cristo sandwiches. Tons of stuff to do with, make a lasagna. I mean, the list never ends, all right, what you can do with bechamel or mornay, all right? I'll be hopping into questions for 1 second. So that's how you do it. Obviously, if you need to eliminate the bay leaf, whole onion, clove, salt, nutmeg, you can. You will still get a very straightforward bechamel, all right, using roux, which we all know, and milk, all right? That's it. You need roux and milk to make a really streamlined, bechamel without those flavor nuances. They do really help and make a dish round out, but you can still do the same thing, okay? So that's that on bechamel. You're gonna take that bechamel, you're gonna make that, and you are going to pour that on top of your gratin. Where the heck it is. There's so many darn recipes right now. All right, pour that on top. Add a little bit of dry breadcrumbs, some Parmesan cheese, freshly grated, right? We know that story. And a little bit of melted butter. Throw it in the oven. Let it get nice and golden brown. Now, a few things to watch out for. You don't want that cauliflower soaked and drowning in bechamel, but you also don't want it so that there's no sauce. So think about how you want to portion that out. If you have a small amount of cauliflower, put it in a ramekin. Put it in 2 ramekins. Put it in the oven. If you got a huge sheet tray, make a barrier of that. Put a piece of foil up in there and make a half size of sheet pan, you know, a little baking tray. You can make it work. All right. Get it golden brown on the top, you're good to go. Now, what we're gonna do with those rest of those pieces. Hop into that puree. Because it doesn't really matter what size of cauliflower we have for a puree, right? It's gonna get blended up. Okay, so cauliflower. Cream, stock, or water. All right. Simmer until it's tender. Drain that off. blend it, add your cooking liquid to it to thin it out to the right consistency. Okay? Salt, pepper, and if you want, a little lemon juice to taste.
Chef,
Yes, chef.
the 8 ounces of heavy cream, likely if you're just using one of the thirds of your cauliflower head, that 8 ounces might be a little much. So,
Yes, of course. Reduce,
so-
you're not going to have a whole pound, right?
Right.
If you're taking one cauliflower, maybe you have a 2-pound head, right? Maybe it's a 1.5 head. You're taking out a big chunk. Weigh, you all have scales. If you're going to reduce your recipe, use your scales. Adjust as necessary. Save that extra heavy cream and for something else. Okay. Also, here's another tip. If you're only going to add a half a teaspoon, right, of lemon juice to that water that you're cooking that cauliflower in, now you've got cauliflower that's been cooking in water, flavorizing it, right? You're not using that water. You can strain that off and use that for something else. Use it as a base of a soup, right? There are always ways to just continue to recycle, reuse, that it doesn't need to just get ditched down the drain. You could even use that as part of your puree stock, right? You're depending upon your size, you know, half a teaspoon, not going to add too much. You're just going to cook use that same amount of water, that cauliflower stock that you've essentially made. Use that with your heavy cream and cauliflower cut up. Don't add lemon juice, right? You've already got some acid in there. Taste it, adjust it. It's to taste. It's not going to affect it greatly. Yeah, chef, were there any other questions coming up? No? All right. So last but not least, so we've got your steak covered. We've got your puree covered. Oh, also, things to note. This puree, this should become velvety, smooth heaven. Smoother than smooth. Now, your blender or food processor may not be strong enough, right? Hopefully it is, but you can get one of the most luxurious spreads out of this puree that you ever thought was possible. Don't leave little clumps into it. You're missing the point there, right? This can be, it's luxurious, really. I'll bring up a visual of this. Let's see if we can get. So you will see that, sure, some are going to be lumpy like mashed potatoes. That's fine. What I want to see, what I would love to see, and I would love for you all to experience, is something that looks like this. Do you see that? How smooth that is? Right? You can get a lumpy one and they look like mashed potatoes. That's fine, texturally. But you want to make something that's super, fine, right? Really just gorgeous. It's probably one of the most heavenly experiences, I think. You load that up with a little cream and butter, you don't even feel bad because it's not mashed potatoes, cauliflower. You feel good. You're like, hey, yeah, I will eat this every day. Okay? So get that to that nice smooth consistency. You're going to have an awesome experience if you do. And now last but not least, let's hop into that press. Press is a little bit more advanced, requires a lot more ingredients, but delicious. So long list of ingredients here, right? But as you can see, some little florets are required. So you could, again, play your cards and take some of those small florets and save them for this. And you're going to need to make a little puree. You're going to puree some, all of those things, right? What can you opt in or opt out? Let's just walk through it. Obviously, shallots, we all know at this point, you can substitute for a nice sweet Vidalia or another aromatic onion. All right. You're going to have chicken stock or veg stock, all right, on hand. You've got that heavy cream on hand from your puree. Your sachet, which we know is like a bouquet garni, all right, bouquet garni, you put them in, you pull them out. Bay leaf, dried thyme, fresh or dried tarragon. Tarragon is really expensive. I find it to be expensive, unless you're ordering it from a restaurant. Inventory wise, tarragon's pretty expensive. You can omit that if you don't have it. Fresh or dried thyme, boom. You've got some dried tarragon, awesome. Now, important to note, agar agar. Does anybody know what agar agar is? Gelatin, yeah. It is a thickening agent derived from seaweed. All right. So, if you cannot find agar agar, which is sometimes difficult, you can substitute gelatin. Here is one of your most common brands of gelatin that you will see. Got two options. This one is fairly common in the restaurant industry. This orange label you will know very well. All right. Knox. All right. Not Knorr, like those seasoning packets, but Knox. All right. Unflavored gelatin. You can substitute that for your agar agar. You do not want any flavor, right? It should be a neutral gelatin. They either come in strips that you soak in water, or they come in a powder form, all right? Much like agar agar will. So hopping back into that press. Let's see what else. Then we're moving through. You've got all these processes, right? So first you're going to cook you're going to sweat your shallots and garlic. You're going to add your cauliflower florets raw, all right? Add stock and cream. You're going to strain, reserve that puree, add that back, all right? Then you're going to do a little bit of and if you want to have this, go for it. Add that puree with the cooking liquid and add that agar agar or other source of gelatin, right? Now, then you are going to add your other ingredients, right? The butter, lemon juice, salt and pepper to taste. Simmer. Guess then we go back with the florets. Yep, add the florets and herbs back. Okay. Now, putting it into a mold. Some of you all use this in the pate. I saw some of you all do it already. You took a ramekin, lined it with plastic wrap, put your puree in, or your pate or anything, put it to set, right? Just like that cream cheese helped firmed up the pate, so too will that gelatin. When it gets cold, the temp drops, it seizes, all right? Then you invert it and you have a mold. Or you can use any type of version of silicone or any mold that you really have. You can even put it into a rectangular tray and just simply make slices or squares. Or take a little round cut that I saw some of y'all use for your crackers and make a round, beautiful little press. Okay? So, yeah, chef.
We've had some questions about what to do with this. We've got these slices of pressed cauliflower. You cut them into shapes. I know this is a very classic French preparation here. It's not something we're really familiar with seeing or using. So I know when I was in school, I made a tray with the gelatin that had all the pretty things in it, but I recommend other than cutting it into shapes and just enjoying it like it is.
So let me show you all a visual of what this can look like. This recipe is from the textbook. I'm going to have a visual. Here we go. From the textbook, let me just pull up the share page so we're all on the same level. Shooters, where are we now? Where did you guys go? Yes. All right, here we go. Share screen. If you do a search within your book, your textbook, whatever you want, by the way, cauliflower press pulls up. All right. Here's your recipe. Now, if you scroll down, this is how they use this. Who knows what this little vegetable is right there? That looks to me like they used Romanesco. Right? They use that Romanesco to get a little color difference. But that's how it is served, right? Very high-end, fine dining. This is if you want to really push it and challenge yourself, give yourself a go with this. See what happens. You can make the other three. You can make the steak, the gratin, and the puree. No problem. If you want to have a little fun, go for the press. It is served chilled, remember. So, you may or may not like that, right? Cauliflower, cold cauliflower? I don't know. You into that?
I mean, it might be pretty as a garnish on a salad. Just a plate of greens that are lightly dressed with some olive oil, a little salt and pepper, and fresh garlic.
Some bacon.
You want that, and bacon, always bacon, but you want that to be the centerpiece, the focal point, for sure. It is very special.
Yeah, 100%. No, but I think Chef's totally right. I could see that with a beautiful bed of greens, this nice cauliflower press, maybe some bacon lardones that have been rendered off are nice and crispy. Heck, you could even put a poached egg with that.
That.
Right? A really delicate piece of fish would be beautiful with this as well. A summer meal, right? Gently poached salmon, cauliflower press, and wilted greens. All right. You got to start thinking about how could you use that, right? Where would this make sense? Maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe you want to challenge yourself. Maybe you say, I don't even care. I don't want to eat cold cauliflower. All right. Then execute the heck out of the other three. All right. You've got the option. Let's see. I see some hands up. Substitute for tofu? Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work for a substitute for tofu. I would pick like seitan or something else, but because it's not going to fry up like tofu either. But I like where you're going, Brian. Yeah, a vegetarian salad, perfect. Switch out that chicken stock for veg stock, and you're perfect, right? Super high end. Make a really beautiful herb oil. Does anybody know how to make herb oil? Let me just talk about this really quickly, and then we got to cut it off because we started at 5:10 and now I'm 5 minutes over. I'm actually gonna get in trouble, guys. Herb oil though, seriously. I know there's always too much to talk about. Is there not? I'm just saying, right? One thing leads to the next. There's so many awesome things to do in the culinary world. And let's pull up some more questions. I'm just gonna show you guys what herb oil can look like. There are many ways of infusing herb oil. You can make spinach oil. Green scallion oil is probably one of my favorite ways to do this. Well, here's one. Not my favorite website, Bon Appetit, but it'll do. As you can see, they've really created this luxuriously delicious green herb oil. All right, super infused. And hey, guess what? Plays into this theme, which is reducing waste. Look at that. So can you imagine that cauliflower pure press and some bacon lardones, but this beautiful green herb oil on there, or that beautiful piece of salmon with a really pretty sauce and then little droplets of this herb oil. So you can make it with parsley. You can make it with green. I mean, look at this, emerald green herb oil. Here's another one, right? It's a way to make dishes look super high end, and you're basically just you're infusing oil. You have a few options. One of your best results is blanching your herbs first, such as spinach, basil, green onions, et cetera, et cetera. You blanch that so that chlorophyll stays solid and true. It doesn't deteriorate, right? You catch it right there. You blanch, shock, and you puree with oil. And then you filter through muslin, cheesecloth or coffee filters, and you get this beautiful emerald green oil. Alternatively, you can do it if you're trying to just do it in a jiffy. You can take fresh herbs, and if you have a really high powered blender, like a Vitamix, like industrial style, only industrial style will get this result. A Ninja will not get you the result. I've tried it. I tried getting a nice herb oil out of a Ninja. No chance. Blades are not strong enough. They're too distributed. The Ninja sucks, Lena. Excuse my language. I agree. It has its place. It has its place. Vitamix is the way to go. It's just not, a Ninja is not designed to make a silky smooth puree. It never was intended for that. And that's not its purpose, right? So we have to know why. Karen loves her Ninja. Hey, my dad and my family love their Ninja too. I can't deal with it. I want to get the Ninja out, all right? Ninja just doesn't cut it for me. I want a Vitamix only. All right? But does a Ninja do what it needs to do? Heck yeah. I've seen some great results from a Ninja. But if you look at how that blade is distributed, let's just take a quick look at this, and then we'll really have to cut it off because I am going way too off. All right, but let's just take a look at the Ninja versus a Vitamix. Ninja blender blades.
While you're looking that up, if anybody doesn't have a Vitamix and wants to get one, Bed Bath & Beyond has coupons that go out all the time. You can get that 20% off. Don't pay full price for a Vitamix.
And sometimes you can even get different discounts being a student, all these other options. Look into it. So here is your standard, now not the small little Ninja bullet, that's different. But if you look at how a blade for the Ninja looks, right? We've got one up here, 2, 3, 4, which is great for doing like a smoothie or a larger puree, but it's really about the horsepower and the strength of that blade, all right? Your Vitamix blade will actually look more like this. I'll pull this up. Vitamix blades. This thing is it's more for industrial, right? Based. So as you can see, we're talking about a different gadget, right? Very little difference, right? They're just slightly angled up here. It's a pretty good example of that, all right? Totally different processing. Got 4 blades all right there together, more or less, with a slight difference compared to that Ninja, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blades, but they're all distributed. So you're chopping it at a different, distance. Anyways, lots of fun things to do. We've got 2 hands up. I want to answer those and then we'll cut off. Margarita, did you have a question?
No, sorry, chef.
No apologies needed. Do not worry. No apologies. Cuisinart will do a decent job. It's not going to have the horsepower you need to get a great oil. Tina's up next. For the gratin, do we need to use fresh squeezed lemon juice? Honestly, obviously fresh squeeze is always the best way, but if you have concentrate lemon juice, that works. It's the acid that you're looking for. So, sometimes concentrated lemon juice is a little bit more acidic and aggressive, just as we know lemons can vary in how sweet or acidic they are, depending upon the season or things like that. Either one are fine. No problem. And Instapot blender is amazing. All right, Natalia, I'm not so sure about that, but all right. I'm just messing. I have heard that you can make yogurt out of the Instapot, so that's pretty cool. Cool. Everybody feeling good? Any questions? Cool. Let's execute this. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Enjoy it. I might even send out a really cool picture of one of our past student, a past student who found, if I can locate her work, she got her hands on yellow and purple cauliflower and just made this cool array. So see what you can get. But white cauliflower is just as beautiful and will work just as wonderfully. And it is also good for the prostate. Cancer. All right. Tons of nutrients. It's packed with nutrients. All right, class. Rock and roll. Catch you next week. Actually, catch you tomorrow. Chef Lee's in the house. Bye.
Bye, Chef.
Bye.
Bye.